Hi there. Today is Saturday, October 1st, 2022, making this the week 39 Create Brilliance weekly update with your hostess, Jennifer Vanderbeek of scrapsoflife.com. How are you? So I'm back in Georgia. Um, Getting home was um, a little different than had originally been planned. I did not travel on Wednesday as planned because weather. Not that the weather in Arizona was bad, just that the whole state of Florida was, uh, you know, under various threats, watches, and dealing with extreme weather in the form of Hurricane Ian. So originally, I had been scheduled to fly into Miami, and then fly out of Miami to Tallahassee over the course of the day on Wednesday. And on Monday morning, I realized that that wasn't going to happen. And so I called and rescheduled. So I flew out Thursday instead. And everything was fine for me. Of course, plenty of people are dealing with power outages and flooding and, wind damage and all of that, everything that goes with a very, very large and dangerous storm coming onto land. Um, so South Florida and even into Central Florida is not doing so hot. I also understand that South Carolina got the boomerang, I guess we call it, because it went through the state and then went back up. Um, so yes, if you're watching this from one of those, well, you may not be watching this from one of those areas, but if you're seeing this and you have people down there or friends and so on and so forth, then my heart goes out to you, them, and I hope they're getting the help that they need. Um, I have I have a couple things to report. So one is that I did finish a project. I finished the cross stitch project that I had been working on. Let me get that properly in focus. So again, this is a cross stitch pattern by Innocent Bones, and the kit comes with everything. The only thing I had to add was scissors. And yeah, so it was a fun project to do. I finished it, completely finished it on the plane on the way home. And it was nice to have that sense of accomplishment. I have also been working on the homework knitting, actually homework crochet of this modular granny square project. That's going to be a shop sample. It's not really easy to show. It's in pieces and stuff, so I'm not going to try and do that. But I'm finally getting there. I've got 7 more small blocks to go and then joining everything together. So there's a light at the end of that tunnel, and the light looks like a lot of sewing in ends. There's a lot of color changes, and so there's a lot of little ends that have to be sewn in, but it's okay. It's okay. Um, while I was at work today, I also picked up some yarn for another project. So this is something that I did recently was I set out all of my like shawls and cowls and scarves and all the things that were not like whole sweaters, all the things that I wear with other things on the accessories. And I'm like, okay, what colors do I have in abundance and what colors do I need? And what I realized I needed was more in like the tan neutrals, like the tans and brown neutrals more than anything. And I'm like, okay. So I have this pattern that I found. It's called the bandana cowl. It's a crochet pattern and it's made for a variegated yarn and it's kind of meant to just kind of cascade color down. And I'm like, oh, we've got this particular line of yarn that we carry called Feeder Brook Entropy, and it is a self-striping yarn, and I'm like, I really want to make something with it, but I don't know what. So when I found this pattern, I'm like, okay, this will be a great pattern, I hope, to make with a feeder brook, and that way I'll have something in my wardrobe that will be a good show for that, and be another crochet sample kind of thing. um but I wasn't sure which colors I wanted because I'm like, "Oh, there's so many cool color combinations in this yarn, and they're all a little different," but until I, like, figured out what my closet needed, otherwise, I probably would have bought something more that was more pink or more green or 'cause I seem to gravitate. I definitely seem to gravitate. So, trying to kind of get round out the collection, as it were. So there's that. But yeah, I picked up the yarn for that today, and I'm not gonna start on it immediately, but, I gotta get this homework crochet done first. So, that being said, oh, the other thing, that I have to report update on, um is actually it actually kind of ties into this week's, thoughts on brilliance, and it is that brilliance is unexpected. Now, sometimes we plan for it, sometimes we work towards it, often we work towards it, or we're hoping for it, or we're looking for it, but sometimes it comes in unexpected ways or at unexpected times. Case in point, so I'm on the flight. I'm listening to an audiobook. Which was a cozy mystery. Yay for the app Libby, by the way, if you're not familiar, Libby. So like Libby, library, I think library, but Libby. And at least that's what is tied into our local library system here in South Georgia. And it's actually the entire Georgia Pines network. Um, and you can borrow books. You can borrow digital books or, obviously, or audiobooks if they're available. And I've been doing a lot of audiobook listening through Libby. And not only does it save me money, but it helps, me read more. And yes, I do consider listening to audiobooks reading. um, this is a little tangent and a tiny little soapbox, I think, but we're gonna move on. Anyway, so I was listening to the audiobook, and I was listening to the end of an audiobook book specifically, and I was listening both as as a reader, as someone who enjoys the stories, but also with my writing hat on. And like, yes, I like the way they've tied up the story, the way they've explained the motivation, and it's got this nice little bow on it at the end. And that was one of the things I felt was a little bit lacking in book 4 of my own series. I I'd kind of puzzled with it. I'd tried out a couple of different things, and in my mind, I was like, "No, it's pretty much gotta be this because I love a good epilogue. For me, epilogues are the thing. I know not everybody is, like, pro, epilogue or not. Same thing with prologues. A lot of people are like, "Nah, I'm gonna skip it." But I like those little bitty bits and pieces. Um, and I've been including epilogues with my books if you haven't read them. It's okay. But oh gosh. Um, I like the epilogue to have, kind of like that little something extra. We get a little bit more information about the characters. We get this nice little kind of, it's not part of the mystery, but it does kind of tease into what's coming next for the characters. And sometimes there's like a little bit of a gotcha. Well, book 4, the epilogue does have a bit of a gotcha in it. And I didn't want to add anything after that because then that lessens the impact. It kind of dilutes it, at least in my head. That needs to be like the last thing. But timing wise, there wasn't enough time between the last scene of the book and the epilogue scene to kind of work in, the resolution that I wanted for the book in general. And I'm like, there's just not enough time. I mean, it's fiction, but that's the thing about books is like when we're writing fiction, it has to make sense. And I'm like, that wouldn't happen. That's not realistic to have all this stuff dealt with in this particular time frame. And then I had this sudden burst of duh. But it hadn't occurred to me yet that I knew exactly how to fix the epilogue, how to include what I needed in the epilogue take something that I had taken out of the first draft of the book and reuse it later on, in this case, in the epilogue. Um, so reuse that idea, close a loop that I had opened in the book, as and just all around, you know, make the end of the story that much better. And, yeah, and it was just unexpected. I was not planning on it. I wasn't thinking on it other than admiring how the author I was listening to had done it. And yeah, so that nice little bit of unexpected brilliance. And yes, I am claiming it's brilliance because, we have to recognize when we have those moments of brilliance because who else is going to do it? So yeah, I was not expecting for it. I wasn't looking for it. It wasn't like an, "Oh, I'm gonna stop thinking about it and the answer will just come to me." I just kind of left it out in the open and just was concentrating fully on other things. So that little bit of unexpected brilliance was really helpful and useful to the point that while I didn't pull out the manuscript while I was still in the air because I was finishing this, I kind of kept turning it over in my head, which writers, we know this, but for anyone who doesn't know, writing isn't just the act of writing it out or typing it out. There's a lot of pre work that goes into writing. We're constantly thinking about our stories, about our characters, about how things might work. And so I was doing a lot of that while we were still in the air. And then once I'd gotten through baggage claim and was waiting on Todd to come pick me up, um, or Todd to arrive because he was on the way already. Um, then I started writing it out. I grabbed the manuscript and a pen and I started writing it out. And I feel so much better about how the book will end now. And yeah, it's a really great feeling. So I hope in this upcoming week that maybe you find some of those great feelings, that you have a moment of that unexpected brilliance and can, like, recognize it and revel in it because it is so much fun. Um, and we're coming to the end of this current Mercury retrograde. I know it has been a rough one for a lot of people. It's been especially ornery in different ways for different folks. And so I hope that you have not been one of those so adversely affected. But if you are, I hope that, you're kind of able to make peace with it and go forward. And if you're just kind of muddling through like the rest of us, well, there is an insight. And hopefully by this time next week, we can say, phew, glad that's over, and start, working with, Mercury more direct and maybe be a little bit more direct or directed ourselves. Maybe that's an idea. Hmm. I'll have to play with that one for a little bit. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful week ahead of you. Um, take care of yourselves if you have the bandwidth and want to and the desire to. um Take care of the others around you, and as always, never be afraid to show the world your brilliance. Thank you for hanging out with me for one more week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.